Again, welcome everyone. Plan Stage Weekly, May 27th. Looks like John has the first item.
Yeah, just an FYI that Eugenia will be joining the Portfolio and Certified Backend team. You can check out the MR. So as of that MR, I guess it's official. I'll continue to hand over reports to Jake this week, but Eugenia will continue to report to me. But she can still pick up issues from project management, and it shouldn't have too much of an effect on velocity of either side of the team. We'll simply move one of our hires when we get them from Certify over to project management.
Well, I'm not sure if she's on the call or not, but if she is, welcome.
Yes, welcome. Cool. Keenan, you have the next item.
Oh yeah, Justin and I were talking yesterday. We just kind of wanted to ask how swim lanes are going. What are we thinking? Any open questions we can answer? Quick check-in.
It's going. Of course, as we all know, it's a pretty big undertaking. But we are making progress. The first step was just getting the architecture in place and switching or adding the drop down just as like the initial part, and then we can start actually switching the data because right now we still get issues on issue boards through our private API, one of our RESTful APIs. We're switching that over to GraphQL, which will be the next step, which I talk about a little bit later in the meeting. But that's what they are going to, what we're going to be working on next week, is getting the actual data available. Then we can start doing some of the fun UI around putting issues within groups.
Awesome, thanks.
Sure. Gabe.
Hey, so yesterday we had our first, cross-stage kickoff exploring issue types with the health group. Sarah Waldner was the PM there, and she recorded the video, and I don't think she's posted on Filter, but I've asked her to. There's a bunch of questions that came out of it, and I thought overall it was pretty good. We're still figuring out what the MVC would look like to get there, but also trying to explore thinking big and keeping what is the longer term vision for issues look like, and how can we take the smallest step possible to help incident management basically move forward so that they can continue to use issues as like the base object. So there's this Slack channel that we spun up if you want to follow along there, as well as a bunch of questions that we posted. They were outputs of our meeting that we posted to the Epic that I've linked to in there if you want to hop in and follow along. If you don't really care that much, that's totally fine too, but just trying to keep everybody in the loop about things that are going on. So that's it. Mark, you're up next.
Excellent. Yeah, just a quick update. Tomorrow, or actually it's not tomorrow, it's Friday, I will be presenting to the requirements management to the public sector sales team. We're really hoping to raise some awareness here as to our offering. There's been a lot of interest there, and currently some of the sales folks don't understand it as well as they would like to. So hopefully this gives them a better oversight as to what it is, how to use it, and they can start asking their customers more and more about their needs in this area. We're hoping to get a lot more sort of interest in it, and be able to answer any questions and hopefully talk to some of these customers and get a great picture of how they're desiring to use it. So that should be interesting. I'll put any notes I get from that or any feedback. So I'm probably in an issue somewhere so we can all review it.
Cool. Any questions? Yep. All right, before we go to discussions and demos, Desiree, I noticed you're on the call, and I don't think you've been introduced in one of these calls yet. So welcome. I don't know if you want to say a quick hi.
Hello, I'm Desiree. I'm coming over from the Manage team, and I look forward to working with y'all.
Welcome.
Awesome. welcome. Okay, cool. For the first demo, Jan, looks like you're going to demo this one for us.
Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen. Okay, so this is a quick demo. We recently added a possibility to create a new epics as confidential. And let me show you. So when you are creating a new epic, you have an option now to mark it as confidential. As far as I know, there is no other place where you can create confidential epic or change an existing epic to confidential, which will be a next iteration. So once the epic is created as confidential, you can add issues or new epics to it as you are used to, but with the limitation that only confidential issues or epics can be added to it. So if I try to add a confidential epic, this should pass, but it should not allow you to add an epic which is not confidential. And there is a bug about this now, that no clear error message is displayed to user. So this is something we should fix. Anyway, I think that this is current functionality, and there was a question whether we should remove this feature flag already or not. I think this bug needs to be fixed before we enable it for everybody. On backend side, we also updated, I hope, all code. So this confidentiality flag should be taken into account. So if I go to the epics page, where as a member I can see this test tool confidential epic, I shouldn't see it as an unauthorized user. So yeah, you can see that this epic is filtered out now. Also, confidential epics should be filtered in other places like auto-completion or other lists. So that's all for the demo.
I've got a question on this. So a confidential epic cannot have non-confidential like children. Can a confidential epic have a non-confidential parent? So the question is rather like, should the whole tree be confidential sort of, or
yes, there is no limitation that it means that there can be confidential child for confidential parent, for not confidential parent, but not the opposite side.
Okay, so then the numbers will kind of get inconsistent again, where we do these counts of.
Yeah, so these numbers would be inconsistent even if same way as we have with confidential issues. Yeah, it's a similar problem. But I think that we had this discussion before, and the idea is that for counts, we don't have to be consistent or precise, and these counts can include also confidential issues or items from, for example, private subgroups or groups where user cannot access, but we still display this count. Yeah, so if there are no any other questions, next one is Simon or Mario.
I think they're both on off hours. So I'll demo that real quick though. So I think I agree with beyond that, we should hold off on defaulting on until we fix that one issue. Keenan, you agree there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I did have one comment. So I know that when we show like a confidential issue in the tree or in the list to a user who's authorized to see it, we put the little icon, the eye with the line through it. I didn't see that for the epics. I just want to make sure we add that visual indication that the epic is confidential as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let me. I think that this is not displayed now. So, yeah, nice catch. I think we should add this.
But yeah,
one too.
otherwise, this looks great. It's great progress. It's good to see.
Okay, cool. Iterations. 1 second. Okay, so iterations, I'll demo the create new iteration page and the list page on iterations. They're both in maintainer. The front ends are in maintainer review. They should be merged here in the next couple days. So we'll see if it works because I'll have to switch branches to get the other one working, but we will try. All right. New iteration page. Since the display iteration page, including where it's listed on the sidebar, is in the other branch, I won't be able to demo from here. But the new iteration button will be within that iterations list page. So imagine someone clicked on that, see this new iteration page, which is in GraphQL. Which is great. I think this is our second now, create form that's in GraphQL. The first one being the requirements management form. Okay, title. Here is, okay, if I try to create it, we'll get an error. We need a start date. I'll add a start date. Let's say today. Due date is also required, so I'll add a due date. Create it. Dates cannot overlap with other existing iterations because I had already created one. So let's try start date June, end date 10. Creating it. I think it's creating it.
Any second now.
Was that deliberate? The dates overlap, was that a deliberate demo of that functionality?
Yes, actually it was. All right, so iterations created. It'll take the user to the iteration list page. Like I said, it's on a different branch, so it doesn't show anything right now. I'll go ahead and switch branches, and let's see if this works. It may require an update to my GDK, which I won't make you all wait to do because that'll take a while. You'll just have to assume that it works beautifully. Let's see. Any other questions while this is running?
Do you want to explain the date overlap feature that we were laughing about?
I can explain it.
Yeah,
sure.
No, I don't know if everybody on the call is aware why that is important.
Yeah, so the things with iterations where they differ from milestones is that milestone, you don't have to have a date. You can have just a start date. You can have just an end date. So like if we ever want to work towards like automatically calculating what a team's velocity was from one milestone to the next or from one iteration to the next, you basically can only have one of the things and there can only ever be one active at a given time. So the first step is to do this manual process like this and make sure that you can only ever have one milestone active or one iteration active in a given date range. And then the next step, like as we iterate on this, is going to be allowing people to automatically schedule their iterations. So like you can basically say, I'm going to have 2-week iterations that start on Monday, and more or less like it will automatically create the iterations each new period, and kind of make that an easier way to manage that flow. And so the only way that that's possible is if you only have one active at any given time within a given group. So that's why.
Keep talking a little bit more.
Um,
I'm just joking.
Does it, like, if you had a start date of May 25th and an end date of June 1st, and then another iteration with a start date of June 27th and an end date of May 5th or June 5th, like there's overlap in between there, but the dates aren't the same, that's not allowed. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's allowed. You just can't have, you can't create a new iteration that has dates that belong to a other iteration within the same group. Right. So if you did May 25th through June 1st and you try to create one that started on June 1st through some other period, that wouldn't be allowed because June 1st already belongs to iteration A, if that makes sense.
I have a kind of question or suggestion sort of. So when you don't have any iterations, you can pick any date. Would that make sense that when you create the next iteration, you just pick up the dates from the last one and sort of populate with the same length?
Yes, that would make complete sense. And I think that's what we're going to shoot towards. This was just the first step of getting something out there so you could create them. But I don't know if you've seen Pivotal Tracker and how they do it. It's kind of similar to that approach. And I've even put in the MVC report to shamelessly copy what they do. But they basically let you pick the day of the week and the start date of your first iteration, the day of the week that you wanted to start on. And then it pretty much like auto-populates the dates in the same like time period. So yes, that's a very good idea, Alexandra.
Yeah, like for me, ideally, like I'm not doing too much of project management and so on, but like ideally, I think you'd want to see some sort of a calendar and then the iterations span through the calendar. Sort of this is how I'm visualizing it. But then as a first iteration, you can just go and pre-populate these fields. That should not be sort of too difficult of a task. Or we can do that as a next iteration real fast, I guess. But then making the UI UX more complex and more like nicer, then yeah, we can think about that and iterate more.
Yep. I think it'd be cool to be able to show the overlay of like the previous iterations on the calendar when you're picking, so you don't accidentally pick. Like it's just a little bit of feedback saying like you can't pick this date before you even get to that point and get the validation message. There's lots of cool things that we can do with it that I'm excited to iterate on.
Cool. Okay. I'm back up here. So as you can see, iterations is added to the issues drop down there. Click on that and we see the list of the 2 iterations that have been created. And then I'll click into there, but that is not complete yet, the actual iterations page or the report view. But that's what they'll see when they click on that. All right. Next demo. Unless any questions on that? Any other questions on that?
No, it's awesome. I think if we can get some version of the report view done this milestone, then we can make the feature GA, which there's so many people that are excited about it, literally. So good work, everyone.
Cool. Shaw, you're up.
Yep. So I'm gonna demo the UI of how new filtered search experience is going to be in hopefully in 13.0 and later in 13.1. So right now I have it some form of experimental thing running on roadmap page. So on the top portion, what you are seeing is the traditional filtered search that we have been running for ages. It is implementation of HAML and plain JavaScript. It has been serving us well, but as you know that today, if you apply any filters on roadmap page or an Epic page or issues or MRs, anywhere basically where we have this type of filtered search in place, you would have to hit enter once the filters are applied, and it would reload the page, add those values in the query params, and then the data will be loaded. We want to make it asynchronous because most of the pages or most of the features rather have the data being loaded asynchronously. So it doesn't make sense to reload the page. We can just make another call, let the page as it is, and refresh the data instead of reloading the whole page. So this is how it looks right now. So the bottom portion is the newer one. Of course, it doesn't currently do any kind of data filtering. I am yet to wire up the things to make the filters working, but this should give you a brief idea of how it will look like. Obviously, there are some rough edges like the button sizes and the borders and everything. But since this is a component which is coming from our UI library, so there is an already work going on in order to polish these components. So it supports all the necessary features that we have right now, like recent searches. The only difference is that we are not literally calling it recent searches. We just have the button with the drop down and the items show up here. And sorting also is the same, just the look and feel of the drop down and everything looks different. Currently, label support is not there within the component that we are using. It is work in progress. So it is very experimental. As far as this filtering UI is concerned, our first plan, at least for 13.0, is to make it working for requirements page. So right now, requirements page only supports filtering based on author as well as plain text. So that's what we'll be aiming for in 13.0. We'll still get the progress working for roadmap, just that it will be behind feature flag. So once label support is there, we'll enable it on production by adding the labels for roadmap page. So right now, if you click on author, it will list down all the authors, and clicking on the author will show it in the same fashion as we see in other places. Same thing goes for drop down for the sorting and everything. Clicking on button will asynchronously sort the results. So as I said that I'm yet to wiring up the data loading part, but this demo is just to quickly show you how it looks. What do you think about it? How the look and feel is, and if you think anything that can be improved before we move it in the first iteration. So, yep.
That looks great, Kushal. Thank you.
Yep. Any questions? Okay, I'll take it as no questions. Then next demo is Axel.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, I've been having some issues with my mic. So, give me a second here. So right now, as Jan showed you, the way to create an epic is through this button where we could set the title. And after creating an epic, we can update the details here in the sidebar, or we can update the description here. So what we did was to create a new creation form. I preloaded some data here, but you can see that it works just as you know. And we can set the labels, the descriptions, and the start and due date, as usual. And this will bring us to the new epic with all the data we already put there. And right now we're still missing some things. For example, the quick action suggestions and some styling on the label. But you can follow that, make a following of that on the issue. I have the MR here updated. And yes, this is a pretty quick demo, but let me know, what do you think about this?
No, yeah, this is great. It's like one of the larger kind of pieces of feedback around like creating epics is wanting a page that looks similar to the issue page, so that looks familiar and users can actually spin up the full epic instead of creating it and clicking over to it. So being able to create an epic with a third of the clicks it requires now is a huge improvement. So well done. It looks great.
Yeah, that does look great. One thing that I happen to notice just when looking at this is the similarity between this and the create iteration view. Like the only difference is like the labels picker and maybe some validation rules, which theoretically would come from, I guess you could set that one as confidential, but is there, like, have we thought about making some sort of reusable component like creation type form thing where it doesn't have like a bunch of conditionals within it, but you can more or less like configure it so that way like it's easy, like we can use the same thing in both places? Can we thought about that at all, or is that a bad idea?
Yeah, like all the improvement I'm making here, I believe the biggest one is going to be to create this component, because this is a different component, a different Helm-based component style as the rest of the GitLab UI form elements. But yeah, I believe one of the improvement is going to be to add this to GitLab UI, so we could use it in the rest of the forms, for example.
Yeah, so I think a lot of this was taken from the iterations form. I don't think we've put these components within a wrapper. That might make sense though to do, because like you said, Gabe, a few of the creation forms are sharing a lot of these components. The actual form components on this page are all the reusable, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Axel, but I think they're all